Hello and welcome to Steve's Mixtapes. My guest mixer this week is someone who I've known for the best part of 40 years. We met at university and is one of the few people from my dim and distant past that I've managed to keep in regular contact with over the years. Admittedly, our level of contact has ebbed and flowed a little, but for most of the last couple of decades I have managed to visit him in Manchester once or twice a year for beers, curries and inconsequential chats about music, education and sundry random topics. I have actually mentioned him in a few previous shows as someone who's made me many mixtapes over the years, and he is a bit of a master of the form, and we'll have more on that shortly. This is also a groundbreaking episode, as for the first time I'm conducting this interview face to face. I drove up to Manchester this morning and we've spent the afternoon in many interesting pubs and bars in Manchester, and now we are sitting in my guest mixer's living room ready to discuss his selection of tracks. So welcome to Steve's Mixtapes, Chris McAvoy.
Yes.
So Chris, did you enjoy putting together the mix?
Well, yes, in a way. I felt a little constrained and was unable to sort of add my sort of little flourishes at the start and finish of certain tracks. But yes, it was an interesting challenge to fit to your constraints.
And you said to me before, it's been a while since you've actually made a mix, but you used to make loads of them.
I did, yes, but shall we say, jobs, time, technology constraints just sort of prevented me from doing them as regularly as I have done.
Well, we'll go to your Hit the Ground Running track. You've picked Cub, who are a band that I remember you putting on a mix track for me called New York City, which is a great track, and I'll put a link to that on stevesmixtapes.com. But this one was quite hard to get a hold of. It's called Through With You, and it was from a compilation album called More Bounce to the Ounce, which is a bit obscure. I also looked Cub up on Spotify, and it described them as a crush pop trio. I looked crush pop up, and it doesn't seem to be. Whoever wrote that for Spotify seems to have invented the genre, because I don't think it seems to exist as far as I could see. But anyway, so tell me why Cub as your opening track?
Well, I mean, I probably disagree with crush pop as a genre, but cuddlecore, I think, is how they marketed themselves in the 90s. Yeah, where did they formed in Vancouver? Lisa Ma was the singer, bassist, and songwriter, and they had a guitarist, Robin, and various drummers in a sort of similar Spinal Tap sort of way. One of whom was sort of went on to be quite famous as well. But yeah, I mean, Cub, New York City was I suppose their famous song. It was covered by They Might Be Giants, and it was sort of quite jolly jangly pop. And Through With You is a track that appeared on a compilation. It doesn't appear to be available through any other means. I bought the compilation because it had the Cub song on it, and it's quite an interesting sort of thrashy, sort of jangly mid-90s indie pop sort of sound.
That was Cub with Through With You from More Bounce of the Ounce, a various artist compilation released in 1997. Short and sweet, and nice and punky and sparky, and a bit like your mix altogether, actually, which was 35 minutes and 51 seconds long.
Well, it would have been longer, but you made me cut out. Well, I thought I had to leave out the last song. But
Well,
anyway,
we'll
carry
come
on.
back to that when we get to the finale. But as far as I can work out, yours is the second shortest mix I've had so far. The only person who's bested you in terms of being concise was Darren Garrett, whose mix was only 30 minutes and 34 seconds.
Interesting. What's the longest?
Well, we've had some really long ones. Gav Morgan, who appeared in episode 3, was 55 minutes. Rob Barbatos was 60 minutes. He had a couple of jazz bits in there. Buzz Fidget, who, as many people know, is the guy behind the Annotated Fall. And everybody knows his musical taste, won't be surprised. His was 65 minutes long. Billy Reeves, his was 70 minutes long, but that was partly because he chose this modern classical piece by John Tavener that was 25 minutes long itself.
Okay.
There we go. Anyway, at this point, Chris, I normally ask people, have you always been somebody for making mixtapes and compilations? Now, I don't need to ask you that because I know you have made them. In fact, you've made many that I've listened to over the years. And I'm aware that those mixtapes weren't always just made for me. You used to pretty much a couple of times a year put together a compilation and send it out to a group of friends.
Yeah, it was almost a household industry, I suppose.
Well, it was, yes. And always had beautifully handcrafted sleeves as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
some of the names?
Well, I particularly remember one called Total Respect for Annie Lennox was one of them. They always had copyright CEM on the bottom. No, not CEM. EMC. EMC for Eat More Crisps.
Yeah.
So, have you continued to make that, or is that something you still do?
No, well, I think in these days of streaming and downloading and so forth, it has sort of lost its appeal a little bit. But also, being a jobbing teacher, it's that sort of thing means I haven't had as much time to be able to do that sort of thing, I'm afraid. But I'd love to be able to do it, and being able to put together 10 tracks for this, with with the constraints you put on me was difficult. But
you're making me sound very dictatorial with all the constraints and so on.
Although I played through, Footloose and Fancy Free with them, I have to say.
I mean, I have to say, there are many, many songs, and this afternoon when we've been out and about, referred to several of them. There are lots of songs and artists that I was introduced to by your tapes. I mean, I talk about the first ever Radiohead song I ever heard was from you. But yeah, so the process for this one, you found it quite challenging to fit in with my constraints, as you say it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I sat down for an afternoon. It's not the same, I think, as sitting there cross-legged on the floor, scrambling through my CD collection or record collection, thinking of things and linking things together and hearing things linked together. When you're doing a online compilation, you're not necessarily listening to the whole thing, I think, and to actually then consciously sit and listen to it, I think is quite different to how I probably listen to music these days.
That's funny. That reminds me of the year. Oh God, when will this be? About 1993, when you and I both lived in Salisbury, and you and I made a compilation for my then wife, Alison, and we sat in your house, and I remember making the compilation and making a pile of the CDs as we were, and the compilation was called No, She Won't Like This. So yeah, but that
it must have been around about the time we first discovered that actually you could buy a PC and you could buy the software and you could actually burn your own CD,
maybe
create your own.
But there was something about, wasn't the actual work of doing it that was quite nice, of having a pile of LPs or CDs
and spending an evening doing it. Yeah.
Okay, now putting this mix together, you have done something that only a very few mixes have done so far, which I have always made the point that the hit the ground running has to be at the beginning, and the finale has to be at the end, obviously. But you're allowed to mix the order of the other categories, and most people have stuck with the something old, something new, etc. But you have mixed things up, and your second choice is something blue, and you've gone for something by the Delgados.
Yes, I mean this could also cover the cover version base as well. It's Mr. Blue Sky, which I think some people might know as a ELO song, and yeah, certainly, yeah, I'd never in my right mind have put an ELO song, yeah, by ELO on any compilation, but the Delgados, I think, yeah, make their own of it, and I think it's quite sweet the way they approach it, and it's yeah, Mr. Blue Sky. So there's your blue box ticked.
Delgado's Mr. Blue Sky, an extra track on the All You Need Is Hate single from 2003.
A Peel session, I think, as well.
Oh, it is from a Peel session, yeah, okay. And they're one of those bands, aren't they, that you wonder why they weren't more, or they weren't bigger than they were, because they were absolutely fabulous, the Delgados. But anyway, we'll move on. And you've gone next for your wildcard choice, and you've gone for a band that I sort of know. In fact, I did own a CD by them, and when I played this, I did recognise the song. It's Prolapse, and the song is "Return of Shoes." So why this one?
Well, I mean, if anyone doesn't own the Italian Flag 1997, you must. It's probably my best album of the 90s. The title "Return of Shoes" is just brilliant, sort of non sequitur. Prolapse, as they remind you online, they formed under a table in the Student Union Bar in Leicester. And Return of Shoes, it's just a great song, complete sort of non sequiturs throughout, and I just love the way that at one point Linda says, "I never realised the telephone's a curse,"
Okay.
and then follows that up with just the question, "Happy?"
I read on, I think it was on the Wikipedia page, that somebody in the band, I don't know who, said about the name that it was chosen to indicate something undesirable in a miserable sort of way rather than unsavoury. Unfortunately, we have come to realise that it makes some people think of arses.
Is that the name of the band or the song?
The name of the band. Apparently, Prolapse makes people think of arses. But there we go.
Well, I mean, it's great. They are back recording. I do want to go and see them.
Yeah, you said they're playing in
They appear
Manchester.
to be playing
yeah.
in Manchester later this year, so I hope to be seeing them there.
Playing we walked past the venue before,
The
didn't we?
Star and Garter, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I might be completely wrong about
All right. Well, if that's true, Prolapse playing at the
But
Star and
I
Garter.
think the idea of seeing Prolapse is possibly better than reality, and the songs do sound like a tramp bellowing at an English student, but I think that could be quite entertaining in its own way.
Crossing the daylight,
Never mind the altitude,
round in the cave,
because
keeping a straight line,
legless on daily bread.
making the day. Taking your bearing,
Double lash the charm.
setting your sight.
waters.
That was Prolapse with Return of Shoes from 1997's The Italian Flag.
Never mind the altitude.
We're going on to your left of centre choice, but before I get on to that, you, like me, are somebody that I imagine colleagues and friends associate with somebody who is very into music.
It's
very
Chris.
into music.
He likes music.
Yeah, he likes music. Yeah. So when people ask you what music do you like, I find that question really challenging. How do you deal with it?
It is a really challenging question. And I think the harder question is, what have you been listening to recently? And I can never answer that question. And yeah, so it's quite good to be pinned down sometimes to make a mixtape like this, or to just sort of stop and think. I listen to so much music. I've got the music on all the time when I'm sitting at home, preparing lessons and working hard and so forth, being a teacher, and probably 90% of it passes me by, and the other 10% I am listening to, and will hear something that catches my ear, or if I'm out running, again be listening, and most of it will pass me by, and there's the occasional thing, and sometimes I'll remember it, sometimes I won't. So what music do I like? It's a difficult one, and I wouldn't necessarily think what I like necessarily agrees with what most people like.
I had it interesting when Oasis announced their gigs. There was a huge frenzy about ticket prices and all the rest of it. I had a couple of work colleagues who said, "Oh, you're really into your music. You'll be buying a ticket, won't you?" And that sort of disconnect between you like music, therefore you'll want to go and see Oasis doing their greatest hits of the first 20% of our career tour. I don't know. It's quite odd, isn't it? It's like there's a slight disconnect between people who quite like music and people who like music. Do you know what I mean? It's. I suppose the difference between people who make it a big part of their lives and people who buy a couple of compilation albums from Tesco every year. I'm sounding really, really demeaning and patronising now.
So. We're sitting here in my kitchen in Manchester, and Oasis grew up sort of 3 miles away from where I'm living. Now, I have a number of colleagues and friends who like music. No one I know actually bought a ticket to go and see
No.
Oasis.
I mean, I have to say, when I did my PGCE, when I trained to be a teacher, my first experience of teaching in front of a classroom was at Burnage
Mhm.
School, which is, I believe, where the Gallagher brothers
I
went
think
to
that's
school.
where they're from, yes.
Yeah, that's where I taught. So yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, there are several Oasis songs I really like. I mean, they're mainly B sides, things like "Acquiesce" and "Round Our Way." I think are really really good. But I don't know.
And as you say, the first 25% of their career
Yeah.
is,
Well, I think if
is
yeah,
quite good.
but I suppose you could always say fair play to them that they've played in the recent gigs exactly what their audience want to hear,
Mm.
and they haven't trundled out loads of stuff from the Standing on the Shoulders of Giants and all those later
Cocaine
albums that
years.
nobody wants to hear. They've stuck to the stuff you want to hear. So I guess fair play to them that way. Anyway, we're going to do your left of centre choice now. I was interested to hear what you might choose for this because the left of centre choice is basically it's sort of in context of the person who's doing the mix. So it's supposed to be left of centre of what you would normally listen to. But you've gone for something that was one of the 142 singles that John Peel had in his record box that he packed to leave behind in case of a fire. So it's special in the box. So it's Big Stick. Tell me about Big Stick.
I don't know what there is to tell you, to be honest. I don't know
Well,
much about them
they're
at
like
all.
tube tops.
Absolutely. And drag racing is about 1 minute 42 seconds, which
Mhm.
is fits in with John Peel's number of singles. Um, and it's just crazy sort of short song. I don't necessarily need to know or want to know much about them, other than in summer she wears a tube top and Eddie takes her to the drag strip.
In the summer, I wear my tube top, and Eddie takes me to the drag strip. One, two, three, go. In the summer, I wear my tube top. Hello, baby. Oh, baby. Hello, baby. In the summer, I wear my tube top. Hello, baby. Oh, baby, this most surely is an emergency. Tube top. In the summer, I wear my tube top, and Eddie takes me to the drag strip.
That was Big Stick with Drag Racing, an EP from 1986, one of John Peel's favourite singles. Okay, so we're going to something old choice in a minute. But before we get to that, I'm going to take you back, Chris, to 1990. And you and I appeared on an interview on University Radio York and I cannot remember the name of the guy who
Mark
did the.
Meadowcroft.
Because that was his name, Mark Meadowcroft. All I remember is he wore glasses. And it was a sort of review the singles sort of thing that we went on. And at the beginning of it, he asked everybody, who are your favourite bands? And you said The Wedding Present and Velvet Underground. And I know this is true because I did have a recording of it. I think it's probably died in my great laptop disaster of recent months, but we'll skip over that. Do you still stand by that?
Probably yes. I mean, this was said out loud on University Radio York.
Yeah.
It was heard by at least two people, one of whom recorded it, I think. But yeah, I mean, Velvet Underground, probably where music began, as far as I'm concerned. The Wedding Present, where music sort of formulated itself for me.
Okay. Oh, very nice. I like that. That's very good. The reason I asked the question is you've gone for something Velvet Underground related. In fact, you've gone for one of Lou Reed's very earliest tracks.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't really matter that it's the Beach Nuts. It's called Cycle Annie. Yeah, it's Lou Reed, and I first had this on a vinyl bootleg that I went out and bought. It's just got a great groove to it. It's Lou Reed being Lou Reed for
Well, it's
3 minutes or so.
yeah. Well, it's like there's
It was in his era of writing songs as a jobbing songwriter.
which he was very good at.
Yeah,
To be fair to him,
exactly,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
catching on to the whatever's fashionable, and the record label would put it out, and so Cycle Annie by the Beach Nuts is a little known, possibly a little known Lou Reed song.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an absolute cracker. I mean, the some of the Velvet's best moments are the lengthy, drony, introspective stuff, but they also wrote some cracking pop songs.
You'd better watch out for little Cycle Annie. 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 She don't wear blouses, she don't wear skirts. Just tight blue jeans, boots, and racing shirts. She tears up those beaches alongside Pasadena. Little Cycle Annie, they just don't come any meter. Y'all better watch out for little Cycle Annie. 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 Got a competition in Harlan, California, high bars. Class A scrambler, she can take on any cars. Her range so ported, got a 4-speed kick. Now little Cycle Annie, she's a real tough chick. Y'all better watch out for little Cycle Annie. 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 Better watch out for little Cycle Annie. 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 Now little Cycle Annie, she has got a guy named Joe, and he travels around just everywhere she goes. Now I ain't saying nothing, baby, I ain't saying that I mind. But when both of them get on that bike and Joe sits behind, you know you're better. Watch out for little Cycle Annie. 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 You better watch out.
Okay, so we're moving on to the Around the World choice, and you've gone for something Antipodean, and we've had that a few times on Steve's mixtapes. We've certainly had the Go-Betweens before. You've gone for a band who now it's a bit of a cliche, isn't it, to say, "Oh, I like the Peel Session better," but I don't think there's a band for me that's more true than this, because it's the Triffids that you've chosen. The Triffids did 3 Peel sessions, and the first 2 in 1984 and 1985, which involved Bright Lights Big City, Monkey on My Back, Chicken Killer, Lonely Stretch, Life of Crime, etc. I take those at the time, and I still think they're one of the best Peel sessions ever. And for all of those songs, the studio versions are fine, but they slightly disappoint.
I first came across the Triffids in probably about 1985, 86. They released an album.
Alan Shaw?
No, before that, the Born Sandy Devotional.
Oh yeah,
Born Sandy
yeah,
Devotional
yeah.
was the album they released.
Is that the one that Bright Lights Big City and
No, those were not tracks on it.
Okay.
So, Born Sandy Devotional, which came out in about 1985, 86, had songs like Lonely Stretch, Chicken Killer,
Yeah.
Life of Crime. They were, I think they were on the Peel session. Wide Open Road was the top 40 hit in that it made about number 30 or something for a week in 1986. They did appear in the Top of the Pops countdown, which I saw not so long ago, which was
Really?
bonkers. Yeah, no, and they then signed to Island Records, I think, and as part of seeing off the contractual obligations to the previous record company, which is the Australian record company, they went out into the outback and recorded in a sheep shearing shed. Recorded an album called In the Pines, which had a budget of about £300 or $300, most of which was spent on alcohol, I think.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
And
Not on production.
it's all
anyway.
itemized, and it's essentially the percussion was someone hitting a water tank with a broom, that sort of
But
thing.
it's all the better for it, though, isn't it? 'Cause it's a
Absolutely.
beautifully sparse album.
Completely, sort of, back to basics. And the track actually that I've chosen is one that didn't appear on that album initially. And it was the first single, maybe the first single, might have been the second single from the follow-up album, Calenture, which was their major label debut, which I think the Enemy did call a sonic cathedral of sound. I think that's where that all
Oh, is that
started
where it
from.
started?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah. bloody
I
hell,
might be
yeah.
completely wrong, but it was a cathedral of sound. It was very overproduced in many respects, but had some fantastic songs. And Trick of the Light was sort of the main single from that album, which didn't appear on In the Pines initially, and then they re-released In the Pines not so long ago, with a version of Trick of the Lights, and I think it's just a lovely version of it. Rather than synth pop and drum machines, it's got quite nice.
Well, it's like all of their stuff.
Some 12-string guitars.
It's so like beautifully crafted,
Mm.
isn't it? It's lovely, and they're a bit like the Go-Betweens, which I mentioned before. They're a band. It's kind of baffling to look back and understand how they weren't more famous than they were, because they just wrote so many good songs. And I don't know, it felt at the time like they were a little bit left of centre for things, but in retrospect now they just seem so.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know.
I mean, David McComb, the main songwriter, the main man for the Triffids, he'd been writing songs since the late 70s, and they started out in Perth, and no one else was performing in Perth at all, and they made their way over to Sydney, and then from Sydney came to London, and I think it was, when they were in London they started to sort of catch on. I think NME put them on the front cover in 1986 as the band of the year. But I mean, certainly they then went back to Australia. They recorded in a sheep shed and In the Pines, and Trick of the Light is just a lovely song.
It's only an image of her, just a trick of the light. I have a letter, familiar paper. I keep a figurine in a locker. It's dedicated, engraved initials, yellow photograph in a pocketbook. Well, the rim of her mouth was golden, but her eyes were just desert sands. But that's not her, that's just the light. Only an image of her, just a trick of the light. I have a letter, gives me directions, name of the street where I should turn. Spoke to a woman who burst into flames, saying back to you, honey, no returns. Well, the rim of her mouth was golden, but her eyes were just desert sands. But that's not her, that's just the light. trick of the light. I was beating on her, laughing at her, beating her out of original shape with the same old panic caught on her face. I copied the image of the ancient template. The rim of her mouth was golden, but her eyes were just desert sands. No, but that's not her. That's just a lie. Only an image of her, just a trick of the light. There's a man sowing sunflowers. There's a woman reaping weeds. You can find no rest in sleep. You can find no peace in greed. Well, the rim of her mouth was golden, but her eyes were just desert sands. But that's not her. That's just the light. Only an image of her, just a trick of the light. Oh, that's not her. That's just the light. It's only an image of her, just a trick of the light.
The Trippet with Trick of the Light. And if you haven't heard either In the Pines or Born Sunday Devotional or the two Peel sessions I mentioned, then I'll put a link to all of those on the webpage at stevesmixtape.com, particularly the two Peel sessions, which I think are absolutely genius. Okay, so we're moving on to your Something Borrowed choice now. And this is an interesting choice because you've basically chosen a band covering itself in a way. So this is a recording that dates back to lockdown times. It's from 2021. Just before we get to the actual song and the band itself, what are your particular memories of lockdown? How did you experience it?
That's interesting because I've sat in the house that I've spent lockdown in. As a teacher, I suppose I was still having to prepare lessons, and we came up with the phrase of shouting into the void because we were asking people to listen and telling them what to do, but not necessarily sure that they were, and as anyone actually listening to us. And so lockdown for me was almost business as usual. I don't have a family. I don't, wasn't sort of letting people get out of the house, go into school. I'd get out in the afternoon and go for a run, but
so it didn't make that much of a difference to me culturally, and because I'm not a very social person, being at home all the time didn't make a difference to me. The big thing I found was I didn't see my older kids. I could only talk to them online, which is quite hard. But it does kind of feel a very long time ago, another world away, even though we're still seeing, I think, a lot of the ramifications of it. You and I both work in education. I'm not a teacher anymore, though I was for 20 years. You are a teacher of 33? Yes, Stanley?
Or 34 if you include training.
But the impact of COVID is still apparent on kids, isn't it? In terms of how well they engage and how well they participate?
Well, yes and no. I think we've sort of tried to get back to normal with them, and to a large extent, I think we have done. I think, there are still, gaps in knowledge, gaps in experience, gaps in social understanding. But I think certainly, where I am teaching in South Manchester, I think we are sort of back to normal.
Okay. Well, the choice you've gone for something borrowed is by the Wedding Present. Now, you and I are both very long-standing fans of the Wedding Present. We've both seen them. Oh God knows how many times between us. I'm probably talking about 50 or 60 between us, I would imagine. This was from Lockdown and Strip Back, which they did during the pandemic. And it's interesting to watch back the video of this song and all the other ones with the separate windows.
Absolutely,
in separate rooms, all the rest of it. And it made me look at one of the first things that made me think was who was on drums? Because the Wedding Present means through so many drummers.
Which drummer was
Yeah,
it?
he's a young guy with a moustache. I've just no idea who he is. But anyway, but it's a particularly favourite song of mine, and it's a particularly lovely version of it. And interestingly, you've chosen a Wedding Present song that doesn't have David Gedge singing on it. He's just playing acoustic guitar on it. The vocals are done by Melanie Howard, who does a beautiful job. And they're what's the line? And just get in the car or whatever it is. I don't know the refrain.
Get
Anyway.
in the car and go so very far.
Yeah. No, it's not that bit. It's and I'm not going to call. That's the bit. And I'm not going to call. Anyway, her vocal is beautiful. So Melanie does a great job. It's got Terry DeCastro playing guitar, who I'm hoping to have on the podcast before too long. And yeah, David strumming away on his acoustic. But it's a really beautiful version of an excellent song. I always think that MIDI as an EP. If it's an EP or an LP, whatever you want to argue about it, I think it's a really underrated record.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we've sort of touched on earlier, probably the Wedding Present, one of the sort of main bands of my listening experience, I suppose, and I couldn't put together a mixtape without a Wedding Present song on it.
No.
I had to have a cover, and obviously I've included Mr. Blue Sky as a cover, which Steve did think was my cover, but actually my cover is the Wedding Present covering the Wedding Present, and it's a lovely version of a really sort of overlooked song in many respects. They've done several versions of it, and there's acoustic versions, there's other versions with other vocalists as well. And Sports Car is just a really nice song, I think.
Well, I will say, with regard to your categories, you sent me the 10 songs without the categories attached. I did match up 8 out of 10, and the 2 that I didn't get quite right could have worked the other way around.
Yeah.
So that's fair. Yeah. So anyway, just thought I'd get that in there. But yeah, it's a lovely song. It's a beautiful version. Well done, Melanie, in particular, for the vocal on it. This is The Wedding Present with Sports Car.
It's okay. I know you've got to go because he's walked in the room. Oh, I heard the sports car shrieking. And you don't want him to know who's on the phone with you. No, I can tell by the way you're speaking.
Sports Car from the 2021 album Lockdown and Stripped Back by The Wedding Present. Right, we're going on to the something new category now. Something I always ask guest mixers is, in this era of 10,000 new songs a day on Spotify, blah de blah de blah, how on earth do you try, and do you indeed even try, to keep up with what's contemporary?
Yeah, interesting, because I mean, yeah, I've probably got 6 music on in the background most evenings while I'm working. The new music fixed daily has become almost unlistenable sometimes. But yeah, the rest of it, Gideon Coe, Mark Riley. I think this one actually I heard Tom Robinson play initially. I know nothing about Freya Beer. It's a nice song. Actually, when I was looking for something that had come out in the last 12 months, there were several other songs I was considering, and then I realised actually no, that was slightly more than 12 months ago, so I couldn't include those.
It is a category that's caught a few people out, actually, which probably says a little bit about my demographic. But yeah, I looked this up on Bandcamp, and I bought it on Bandcamp, and it's a great song. There's quite a 50s, 60s type. Do you remember the Ravenettes? It's reminds you a little bit of that, sort of that echo of girl groups and the rest of it. But no, I think it's
And even elements of the Jesus and Mary Chain.
yeah.
If I'd had longer, I'd have probably put a few Jesus and Mary Chain songs into this compilation.
Well, we're going to come back to Jesus and Mary Chain for the next one, so we'll hold that thought. This is Freya Beer with Crybaby.
Baby Blue sings you a song. Words stutter, it doesn't last long. Pick me up, give us a twirl. Look at you and start to tear. Cry, 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 baby. Why, whining at me? I'm wild at heart beneath the trees. Looks given in disbelief. What if I told you the truth? Oh no, you're so cruel. Cry, cry, cry,
a single from this year that was Cry Baby by Freya Beer. Now, I mentioned, or we touched on Jesus Mary Chain before, and, I have very fond memories of getting Psycho Candy for a Christmas present when I was about 16. Because I used to give my mum a list of albums. That was basically my Christmas list with list of albums I wanted. And I know that she went into Virgin Music in Durham and asked for the new album by the Jesus and Joseph chain. I can't remember what she said, but some magnet or Jesus and Mary and Joseph.
You'd hope they get it right.
Yeah, something like that. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph she asked for. And anyway, a very kindly young man helped her out and bought me Psycho Candy. But that's not, although I have a lot of time for that, and there's lots of things on that album that I really love, like Taste of Cindy in particular, I think is marvellous. But it's not my favourite Jesus Merch album. I always have loved Stoned in the Throat, which I think is beautiful. It's like this beautiful. It always reminds me of beaches and surfing and stuff. There's a gentle undulation to it, and it features Hope Sandoval. That's how you pronounce it. Is that right? Hope Sandoval on vocals, and that takes me into your Take It Down track, which is Mazzy Star.
Well, you don't take it down any further, really,
No,
I think,
I know.
than Into Dust by Mazzy Star. Yeah, I mean, the Jesus Mary Chain's Stoned and Dethroned album was like the Velvet Underground, where they lost all their instruments and had to sort of record everything quite quietly. No, I mean, yeah, Mazzy Star Into Dust, I think it's probably been used in quite a few TV dramas and so forth. But it's not Fade Into You, which is the more famous track from the
But which is
the
lovely
second
as
album,
well.
which is lovely in itself.
I mean, it's all lovely. I mean, they don't do any bad tracks, do they? I mean,
No, and there are more upbeat songs as well. But in Into Dust, I think if you're looking for something to take it down, I don't think you're going to go much further than Into Dust by Mazzy Star.
your face. It was you, breathless and torn. I could feel my eyes turning into dust, and two strangers turning into dust. Turning into dust.
Okay, so we're getting on towards your finale track, Chris. Just before that, you've been, like me, well, longer than me, a teacher. You've been teaching for over 30 years. I did 20 years duty in the classroom. What would you say into, working with young people? What would you say are the biggest cultural differences with young people now to when you started working in the profession?
They don't talk about music anymore.
Okay.
Certainly not conversations I have in the classroom. Regarding what they're listening to. People ask me, what sort of music do I like, and I sort of tell them, and occasionally if they have their phone out, which they're not meant to have in school, and I tell them the Wedding Present or Half Man Half Biscuit or the Jesus and Mary Chain or something along
Which
those
I guess
lines.
gets a lot of blank looks out of it.
Absolutely. Well, just sort of laughter. Yeah, Half Man Half Biscuit. But no, it's difficult. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that kids connect in the same way with music these days. And
No.
we were talking earlier on about how they might listen to something on
TikTok in
TikTok.
particular, yeah.
Indeed, says something. I have to pause. Then you have to fill the gap. But yeah, they'll know something quite acceptable, quite decent, and probably Into Dust has been used on TikTok. I wouldn't
Mm.
wouldn't doubt. But yeah, I mean, in terms of yeah, talking to kids about music, I think it's getting quite difficult, really.
Well, there's I don't know it's a good thing or a bad thing, but there's a lack of tribalism these days. There used to be sets of things that you liked. So when I was going to a youth club, for example, it was you either like One Step Beyond or you
Hmm.
like Kings of the Wild Frontier.
Mm.
It was one or the other. And then at some point you were either you're a mod or you're a punk or you like heavy metal. And I mean, I mentioned this a couple of times before, but I said to you earlier this afternoon, my daughter who heard a Cure song that she really liked, and she likes it, but she has no interest in finding out more about the Cure. And I'm sorry, apologies to my daughter, but I very much doubt she'll ever listen to this, so it doesn't really matter. But it's young people don't have that inquisitiveness about. Like, I heard this great song by this artist. I wonder what else they did, and that
Mm.
seems to have disappeared. And I appreciate I sound a bit grumpy old man about this, but I don't know. It's like they have this world of music ahead of them, and no interest in exploring it. I find it really bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier today about what we'd watched on the Glastonbury coverage, and I mentioned that I watched what's her name, Olivia Rodriguez, and
We're sounding very much like grumpy old man here, not
But
knowing what her name
I mean,
is. Yeah.
she brought on Robert Smith.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, it's Robert Smith from Out of the Cure. And the 15-year-old girls in the audience looked completely bemused by this.
Yeah.
Robert Smith looked a little uncomfortable and fairly bemused by the whole thing
To
as
be
well.
fair,
But they then did two quite acceptable Cure songs.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Robert Smith probably looks quite alarming to a 15-year-old
Exactly,
girl.
yeah.
Well, he looks quite alarming these days. Yeah. Sorry, Robert, but I mean, you're great. And we were talking before about the great songs. The song that my daughter really liked was Lullaby, and I pointed her towards Pictures of You, which I still think is one of the greatest songs ever recorded. But anyway, so to move on to your finale track, anyway. So you've gone for a track by Luna, which when you put this on, I thought, oh, Luna, who are they again? But it's Dean Wareham, isn't it, from
Mhm.
Galaxy 500, who I think produced the second greatest ever cover in terms of a song that reimagined and did something new with a song. Do you know which song I'm talking about?
Being Ceremony.
Ceremony, yes. Because you know my feelings about New Order. Well, let's not explore that now, but I'm not a big fan of New Order, but I thought their version of Ceremony was fantastic. The only cover I think that is probably better is, funnily enough, we talk about The Cure, Dinosaur Jr.'s version of Just Like Heaven, which
Okay, right.
yeah, well, I just think that is a complete explosion of, well, anyway, yeah. But, so, gone for something like Luna, which, when I looked up Luna, reminding myself that it was Dean Wareham of Galaxy 500, Rolling Stone magazine described it as the best band you've never heard of.
Did they? Right. Well, I mean, dialing it back to cover versions, Galaxy 500, which was Dean Wareham's original band, they did a fantastic version of Don't Let Our Youth Go to Waste.
Oh,
which
yeah,
is a Richmond song.
that's a really good song.
And they do a wonderful version of that, which is completely different, really, to the Jonathan Richman version, which was sung completely a cappella, if I remember.
Pretty much.
But no, and this song, obviously, I had to go for a finale. Steve wanted something to go out on a high with, and I really wanted to include a track by the Walkabouts.
Yes, well, I stole this
again, a cover with, but you got there first.
Well, this is
Feels Like Going Home.
I mentioned before that Chris used to send out a couple of times a year a mixtape that went out to myself and other friends from university, and I can't remember which one of them it was, but I definitely heard the Wild Heart song from one of your mixtapes. And when I put together my first compilation,
The Walkabouts, not the Wild Hearts.
Oh yeah, the Wild Hearts. Yeah, that's a different band altogether, isn't it? When I put together my first compilation, the first thing I put in was that Esplanade track because that's just exceptional. But it's interesting to me because I've had this conversation with a few people. I kind of imagine that everybody would choose something like the Walkabout song, something epic and grandiose and long. And the other one I haven't used yet, but Barney and Me by the Boo Radleys, something with a really extended coda that goes on and builds up and whatever. And actually, people haven't necessarily done that, so we've had some really interesting choices. Johnny Mack, who was on, I cannot remember the song he chose off the top of my head, but he chose something that was about finality, about the closure and ending of things. I had, and again, I can't remember who this was. Somebody chose Larry Wallace, who was originally a member of Motorhead. Was it called Police Car? Because they thought that sounded like something that went over the closing credits of a TV show. So basically, people had lots of different ways of choosing a finale track. So why this one? Because this isn't epic and it isn't, maybe a traditional finale type song. So why this one?
I think because it ends so well.
Okay.
I mean, the track is This Time Around by Luna. It's, I think, track 3 possibly from their second album. It wasn't even the end of their album. And it's just a song that builds quite nicely, bobs along for a bit, and then just takes off with a wonderful slide guitar solo at the end. and the chorus comes back in over the slide guitar. And I just think it ends so well, so nicely. And yeah, it's as I say, it's not necessarily their most well-known song. It's not necessarily his best song either. But I just think it ends so nicely, and as the end to a compilation, I think it works pretty well.
You spent the night in a steel hotel where the birds whistled, where the birds whistled. You have to wonder what's going on, and maybe this time you're overdrawn. This time around, the pressure's on. You hope for happiness, your hands are scarred. I've seen your girl, you think she's cute. Don't make her crazy, don't make her sad. The sky is painted deep shades of blue. I hope for happiness, I think of you. This time around, the pressure's on. You hope for happiness, your hands are scarred. This time around, the pressure's on. You hope for happiness, your hands are scarred. This time around, the pressure's on. You hope for happiness, your hands are scarred.
That was Luna with This Time Around from their 1994 album Bewitched, which concludes the mix of my very good friend Chris McAvoy, with whom I've spent a very pleasant afternoon in the pubs of Manchester. This afternoon we've been in various places, and we've been in Society, is one of
Yeah, I
them.
don't think many of them would count as pubs. There's
Okay,
lots
bars,
of brewery taps, shall we
brewery
say?
taps. Okay. See, where I live, there are just pubs.
Mm.
But because Chris is very cosmopolitan, lives in Manchester, he has brewery taps and bars and stuff, rather than just pubs called the King's Head like we do. But anyway, we've had a nice time catching up, drinking beer, eating crisps, going for Korean food,
Mhm.
and yeah, just having a generally nice time. So yeah, it's been good to catch up. Thank you for your mix, Chris, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.